I started off the month by watching V for Vendetta, and this was a pretty fun and entertaining movie. I think it was a little bit slow and dragged out at times. I did have to take a little bit of a break watching this one, like I had to stop it about like halfway through and take a little break, come back a bit later, because the middle was a little boring, but the first act kind of introducing and establishing everything was really cool, and then the payoff was really great as well. I love Natalie Portman in this movie. I just love her in everything because she's Natalie Portman, but she was really great in this movie. It was super entertaining, probably my favorite DC movie, but that's not really saying much. Then I started to continue my Scorsese binge by watching The Color of Money, and it was decent. It was a fun enough movie. I think at a point Tom Cruise and Paul Newman's characters started to getting kind of repetitive, and their tropes were kind of stale, overused a little bit. But I think for the parts that worked, they worked really well, but a lot of it was pretty stale and pretty boring. But I will say the editing in this movie was absolutely phenomenal. And overall, it was just a pretty fun film. Martin Scorsese makes some good movies, and this is definitely a pretty decent film. Then out of nowhere, I decided to rewatch Jacques Tati's Mon Oncle, and I loved it even more. Now, I think Jacques Tati's films are, for me, they're comfort films. Whenever I'm feeling down, whenever I'm feeling like bored or something, I'll throw on a Tati movie, because they just make me feel good, and I have a great time with them, especially this one right here. A little bit more than playtime. I think this is more fun and the playtime is a little more serious, a little more theme heavy, and Mon Oncle is really just a fun comedic time. I just have a blast with this movie. This is probably Tati's best performance, because he's actually in this one probably more than playtime, but I absolutely love this movie. It is so much fun. I don't like it as much as playtime, but this is definitely his most fun and feel-good movie for me, and it's just a must-watch. Then I watched David Fincher's Mank, and I liked it a lot. I actually do think I liked this movie more than a bunch of people. A bunch of people really didn't like this one, but I will say that this was made for a pretty niche audience, and I'm definitely a part of that niche, because I'm someone who absolutely loves 1930s and 40s Hollywood. I loved Citizen Kane. So obviously this film would appeal to me. It was really pretty entertaining. There were some definitely parts that dragged. Amanda Seyfried gave a really great performance. Same with Gary Oldman. The cinematography was just beautiful. And overall, it's just a fun movie. And honestly, something that I was pretty invested in for the entire runtime. Then I watched David Lynch's short film, What Did Jack Do? And it is a masterpiece. Then I watched Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, and I absolutely adored it. This film is just amazing. Really one of my favorite films of all time. It is so phenomenal. I'm pretty sure I talked about it in depth in another video, but if I didn't, if I'm just tripping, then I will say that it is a very relevant film, because it has some great social commentary on police kind of brutality and racism and all that sort of stuff. So it definitely relates to today's society very well. There's some great performances. The cinematography is very Spike Lee and extremely unique, and I absolutely love that. And overall, it's just a crazy and fun, entertaining movie. Then I watched the 1999 comedy Election, and I had a really great time. This is, I'm pretty sure, the only Matthew Broderick film I've seen other than Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and honestly, I think he just makes every movie better that he's in, because Ferris Bueller's Day Off is absolutely hilarious and amazing and fun, and this movie was the exact same thing. It was crazy, it was wacky, it was out there, and it was extremely weird, and I definitely like that about it. It was really funny, and Reese Witherspoon also gave a great performance, and I just loved this movie. It turned every stereotype basically on its head, and a really unpredictable but hilarious movie, and a classic comedy in my opinion, so definitely check it out. Then I started getting into the Christmas spirit, and I watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas from 1966. I know it's technically, I don't know if it would be considered a feature-length film, but this is one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. It is just amazing. The narration by Boris Karloff is great. You got some other voice acting, which is really, really great. And I think this does tell the story of the Grinch a little bit better than in live action, because it has, like, it's a Dr. Seuss book, so it really doesn't need to be made into a long feature-length film. And so given the brevity of this short, or I guess maybe feature-length, it just tells the story perfectly. Great pacing, there's always something going on, and I just absolutely love this classic. And then this is a TV show, but I finished the Queens Gambit, and I absolutely loved it. It was a great show. I think Anya Taylor-Joy gave a really, really great performance as Beth Harmon. I was super, super invested the entire time. Unfortunately, I did watch this one with my parents, so I didn't get to binge like multiple episodes in a row, because at the end of each episode I wanted to watch the next one. That's how hooked I was on this show, and I think that is part of a way that I judge television shows, is how hooked I am and kind of how much I would want to see the next episode after one ended. And this was definitely one that I could have probably binged in one day, but yeah, it was just a really, really great show. Then I continued the Scorsese binge with The Last Temptation of Christ. In my opinion, one of his more underrated movies. This was a phenomenal film, definitely probably his most beautiful film that I've seen so far. The cinematography and the landscape, set design, that sort of stuff was absolutely amazing. Could only assume that it's historically accurate, but everything about this movie is just beautiful. I love how it kind of goes to see Jesus as like a human being and as like a normal guy, and just it wants to see him and what he was going through and his problems, and it goes to dissect that. And I honestly really like that approach. It is definitely different when it comes to religious films, and I honestly thought it was just really, really well done, and it went for something super unique, so I gotta respect it for that. Then continuing the Scorsese binge with New York, New York, and it was okay. To me, it was kind of just a poor man's La La Land. Then I watched Star Wars The Force Awakens, and I really, really liked it. Now, here's the thing about the sequel trilogy in Star Wars. I do like each individual film. They're really, really fun, they're entertaining, they're visually quite amazing. The VFX in these films are just stunning, but as a trilogy, it's not very coherent, and it kind of is all over the place. The characters aren't all that great, but to be completely honest with you, that doesn't matter in the moment. I tried to grade these films as standalones, and I really just had a blast with The Force Awakens, but it honestly isn't even my favorite of the trilogy, to be honest, so we will get to that later, but it was just a really, really fun time. Then I rewatched Fantastic Mr. Fox. I don't need to say anything, it was a masterpiece. Then I watched It's a Wonderful Life for the very first time, and it did not disappoint. This was very, very hyped up by my boys over at the critic community. Basically everyone who's seen this movie there has absolutely loved it. It's one of their favorite Christmas movies of all time, and I was not disappointed. It was an incredible film. Jimmy Stewart probably gives my favorite performance of his, if not my favorite, definitely top 3, and that's saying a lot because there is no such thing as a bad Jimmy Stewart performance in my opinion. I love his character in this movie. There's some great cinematography. It is such a feel-good movie, but also kind of depressing at the same time. Just overall really, really good stuff. The ending just gave me the biggest smile ever, and this is definitely one of my favorite Christmas movies now, and I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Then I watched Black Christmas, and it was phenomenal. This is one of my favorite horror movies of all time now. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite Christmas movies because it's one of those ones where it's not really a Christmas movie, it just happens to take place on Christmas. But I think the horror aspects of this film were amazing. They were really, really well done. I love the POV shots. Everything is super like immersive and entertaining, and there's a lot of experimental stuff going on with this movie, and I just really, really enjoyed the film. It was really entertaining, really scary, and really well done. Then I rewatched the 1964 stop motion Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. There's not that much I can say about this film other than it's a childhood classic and it is a masterpiece. It is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. Then I continued my Scorsese binge even more with The Age of Innocence. All I can really say about this film is it just wasn't my thing. Period piece dramas are just not for me. Then I watched Karsten Runquist's short film Long Toast, and it is a masterpiece. Then I continued the Scorsese binge with Cape Fear. It was really creepy, really disturbing, really weird, but honestly just a really, really good time. Then I rewatched the How the Grinch Stole Christmas from 2000, and I really like it. It's a childhood classic for me. There's a ton of people that hate this movie, and to be completely honest with you, I fully understand it, but I have way too much nostalgia for this film to not love it, and honestly, it's just a really, really good movie, I think. And the set design is honestly brilliant. Like, the entire sets of Whoville are literally look like they came out of a Dr. Seuss book. They look so perfect, and Jim Carrey just absolutely nails it in this movie. His performance is god tier. I absolutely love him in this. Then I rewatched 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it is still a masterpiece. Definitely the best movie of all time in my opinion. But yeah, it's not my favorite, but it's definitely, in my opinion, the best made movie of all time. It's just absolutely hypnotizing, stunning visually. You got Hal, who is a great villain, and just everything about like the story and the themes are just perfect. I absolutely love this movie to death. This, like, the quiet, patient feel and the slow storytelling are just so hypnotic, and I really absolutely just love this movie, and I could just watch this basically any day. Then I watched Ridley Scott's Blade Runner, and I really, really liked it. Harrison Ford really killed it in this role. I love Harrison Ford, but I haven't really seen too many of his films other than like his really, really mainstream ones, and I loved him in this movie. He really killed it. The villain, or I guess the villains in this movie, are really good, really compelling and cool. The entire premise of the film is incredibly unique and honestly really well done. The visuals are stunning. Like, you could re-release this today and they would still hold up very, very well. And overall, this was just an incredibly immersive and entertaining film that is also thought-provoking at the exact same time. Then I rewatched Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and I really liked it this time around. This used to be my least favorite Star Wars movie, and now I really, really like it. I've come to kind of accept the fact that this is definitely the most visually stunning film that Star Wars has ever made. Rian Johnson's direction is just beautiful. The cinematography is amazing. The VFX are just out of this world, no pun intended. Absolutely stunning. And I've come to grow on Luke's character in this film, because I used to hate how he wasn't always winning, and he wasn't like how cool and badass he was in the original trilogy. But I think if they rehashed his character, it would have been more entertaining, but it would have been like kind of bad on a storytelling level. So I really like how they went from him succeeding in his younger years into now in his like older or middle ages, and he's really struggling with himself. He has like inner struggle and inner torment, and I honestly liked how his character was kind of tortured in this movie. And just everything about this movie looks amazing. There definitely was some bad stuff, like Rose's character is just god awful. She's probably my least favorite character of all time. I literally hate her so much. Canto Bight, they're there for a little too long, but to be honest, I don't completely hate this storyline like a bunch of other people do for some reason. So I don't know. I kind of got over a bunch of things that I hated about this movie, and definitely have come to enjoy and love the good parts of it. So it is now my favorite of the sequel trilogy. Then I watched Miracle on 34th Street, and it was a really fun, charming Christmas movie that is a really feel-good film, and definitely would be definitely a classic that everyone should see. Then I rewatched Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and it is not terrible. Contrary to popular belief, I actually think this is a fun movie. The storytelling and narrative is kinda all over the place. The whole sequel trilogy is kinda all over the place. But as always in these films, the visuals are just stunning and gorgeous. You got some pretty solid performances. You got just some really fun Star Wars action. Like, you can't tell me that Star Wars space battles and lightsaber battles are not entertaining. Like, if you say that, you're just lying, because the sequel trilogy has some of the best, if not the best, space battles and like dogfights and lightsaber battles out of any of the Star Wars movies. So if you say that you don't like them, then you just don't like Star Wars, because they are better than a lot of the original trilogy stuff. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to say that you're not a Star Wars fan or whatever, but the sequel trilogy definitely has some very positive parts to it, and you are lying if you say that the visuals and like the space battles and dogfights are not good in these films. Then I rewatched Home Alone, and I still love it. It is one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. I really can't say something that hasn't already been said about it. Then on Christmas Eve, I decided to watch Bringing Out the Dead for my Martin Scorsese binge. Why did I do this, you ask? That is a good question that I don't really know the answer to. It was just a good movie. That's what a lot of Scorsese films are. They're just good, well-made films. Nicolas Cage, never thought I'd say this, but he gave a really great performance for the character he was playing. It was a really kind of on edge, kind of suspenseful, little stressful film. The film felt dirty and gross, like I haven't slept in like 5 days, and I was terrified and disgusted by that, but that's exactly what they wanted me to feel. And it's kind of just an overwhelming movie, and I honestly kind of like that about it. On Christmas Day, I watched Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and it is one of the best films of 2020. Chadwick Boseman gives a fantastic performance. May he rest in peace. Probably the best performance of his career. Even like everyone else gives really great and compelling performances. Ma Rainey's a pretty great character, although I think Levy takes the spotlight in this because Chadwick's performance is great. His character arc is definitely better, and just overall it was really good. I cried multiple times because of Chadwick's acting and just kind of the context of the film. And I will say that, no spoilers, but the ending was freaking crazy. Then I rewatched Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and it was pretty good. You know, there was definitely some redeemable qualities in here. It is definitely one of the more boring Star Wars films. There's not that much to do, but the highs are incredibly high. I think Duel of the Fates is probably one of, if not the best, lightsaber battle. Actually, it's not the best, but it is one of the best lightsaber battles in the history of Star Wars. It is probably the most important scene canonically in the Star Wars franchise, but it's just freaking incredible, that scene. And then pod racing, really fun. There's some great moments, there are some boring moments, but overall I do have positive thoughts and a fun time with this movie. Then my brother and I rewatched Attack of the Clones, and we kind of just stopped it halfway through because we were bored. This is not a very good movie. Then I rewatched A Clockwork Orange. I'm just as afraid as you are because I can't stop thinking about this movie. I literally think about it every single day. Someone please send help. Then I decided to watch Pixar's Soul, and it is phenomenal. It is the best Pixar movie in my opinion, at least as of right now. The themes of existentialism and kind of finding your purpose in life really resonated with me. The animation is, in my opinion, the greatest animation that I've ever seen on screen. It's just incredible. It looks beautiful. You got some great voice performances. And just the themes and commentary really resonated with me and touched me, and I really felt the impact of this movie. And just coming out of it, I felt so refreshed, and I just had a phenomenal time with this one. Then I decided to end off the year with Cars, and it is one of the most underrated Pixar films. Just absolutely love this movie. Such a childhood classic. Lightning McQueen is great, voiced obviously by Owen Wilson, who honestly does a very great and accurate portrayal of that character. Just such a underrated movie. Like, for a movie about cars, this film is incredibly human. It feels real and visceral, and I don't know, the themes, people don't really see them, but I definitely do see them there. And I just love this movie, man. It's a childhood classic and definitely one of Pixar's more underrated movies. And that is all that I watched in December. Finally, it's 2021. Hopefully this year is better than last year. But I'm definitely going to be coming out with some more videos for you guys, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But thanks for watching, and that's it for me, guys. I'll see you in the next one.